and welcome to Husky Talk, conversations with Cully and Conlon. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. With me, as always, the beautiful, entrepreneurial, greatest coach in high school history in Connecticut, Miss Maria Conlon. How are you, Maria?
I'm good.
It's great to see your face this time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Last couple of times we did this, I had like
Yeah,
major demolition behind me because we moved.
I know.
Now I feel like I was actually going to go do this out on my balcony, but where we live now, across from us, you can see the runway uh, Sikorsky Airport. So like all the little like fancy planes and everything take off constantly. You can't hear it in the house, which is great, but when you're out on the deck, you can definitely hear it outside. It's cool to sit out there with the kids and kind of watch the planes, but not good for podcast background.
Yeah, kind of like what I had with the people mowing the grass.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I feel like you always have something going on in the background. It's like your dog.
I know. You hate the dog.
It's all
I
right. Yeah, all good.
know.
How are you?
um, was your weekend good? Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, my weekend was all right. I mean, we're still trying to get settled here in Stratford, so just putting a lot of furniture together and moving stuff around. They should be done with a lot of the major work we're doing this week, which will be great because we haven't really been able to unpack. But just trying to soak up like the last couple weeks of summer. My son yesterday transitioned to his toddler class, which was a big deal.
Yes, which I still can't believe being that young. He's
Yeah,
jumping right in.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, the only real major changes for him are he has a different teacher, and instead of sleeping in cribs, they sleep on like little cots for nap time.
They
And
actually had cribs in the school.
oh yeah, because when the infants come, like so they take kids all the way from 12 weeks old to
Oh
be.
my God. Wow.
I mean, it's an awesome daycare. It's really not
Yeah.
even. It's really an early childhood school.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so he's been in the crib and in his sleep sack for the last 19 months. So, we were concerned yesterday that he was gonna like not sleep well because it was a cot. He took like a 3 hour nap and a
And
3 hour
he was out.
he was out. So now we're like, maybe we should transition him to the toddler bed if he's in his sleep better. So, yeah, so
Wow.
that was big news here. My daughter goes to eighth grade next Tuesday, which is just wild to me. Like I can't even believe it.
I
Uh,
can't believe it either.
yeah, I'll probably.
When I saw her picture, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, she looks like she does look like a freshman. I mean, she looks older.
Yeah, she's super tall. And just definitely is starting to like get the mature features, if you know what I mean. So, she doesn't look like this little kid anymore, which is
Well,
tough.
is
Tough.
she into boys yet?
No,
That's what you got to
no,
look for. Good.
no.
You keep her away from boys.
We got that locked up for
We
now.
got
We're gonna keep
that
that
locked up.
locked up for as long as possible.
Good.
Yeah, she's still in the mode of like I want to hang out with mommy, which is great. So
Oh, good.
I'm gonna ride that train until it stops. So that's it.
Yeah, because you love being with her.
Yeah, it'll be like bittersweet for me next week. Like I'm excited for her to go back to school because
Yeah.
to deal with the incessant like, what are we doing today? This isn't fun, or I'm bored, and I'm like, I've told you this before. She thinks just because she has off from school that I don't have to work, but that's not the case.
You're
Um,
right. Right.
So it'd be good to like get some stuff done without having to entertain her, but definitely bittersweet because I won't have my little buddy around. So
I know. I hear you. So I wanted to ask you, Seattle, the Seattle Storm. They are naming the a section of their street to Seward Court. It's going to
yep.
be Seward Court. Um, if anyone in Seattle has earned it, it's probably her or like maybe Marshawn Lynch. But Sue, she's always given back to the community. She had an amazing career there. They won championships and everything. What were your thoughts on this? I mean,
I mean,
especially for the WNBA too.
it might have been Marshawn Lynch if they would have handed the ball off to him in the
I
Super
know in
Bowl,
the Super.
right? Um, but she's definitely got more championships for the city than he has. But yeah, no, I mean, she's iconic there. I mean, I went out last fall for her, jersey retirement there
Right.
and whatnot. And I mean, she is it there. Like, you
Yeah.
can't go anywhere with her without swarms of people. And, she's done
And
a
she's
lot
with
for the city.
Megan too, right? She's with Megan.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have a house out this way, they have a house out there. And they're, she's part owner of the Seattle Storm now. So that's part of it. But,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, she started her career in Seattle. She's going to end her career, she ended her career in Seattle, and she's really stayed loyal to the city. So I think it's great to see something like that, especially for the women's game because it's not like Seattle doesn't have other professional sports teams in it. They have baseball, they have football, all that good stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
they brought back hockey too. Yeah.
yeah, brought back hockey. Actually, I feel like no, she's part owner. She's part owner of the Crankin. What team is that?
Oh, that's a hockey team. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's part owner of that too. So there's a lot going on in that city. I love Seattle. I
I
like,
do too. I do too.
yeah,
I love
it's
Seattle.
like if the weather was like a little bit better, I could totally see myself like retiring there. But I don't know if I could deal with like overcast every other day. But
Yeah.
I just think it's a great city. There's so much to do. It's absolutely beautiful in Washington State. So yeah, no, overall, it's great for the game. It's great for her. She definitely deserves it. So that was cool to see.
It's always funny to me because she is a native New Yorker. I mean, she played at Kings, didn't she? Down in that was her high
Christ the
school.
King. Yeah, she's from
Yeah.
Sciaca Unity.
Yeah, she's a New Yorker. So
Yep.
I never expected her to go to Seattle. I mean, all the way across and stay as long as she stayed long term, and
Yep.
then become an icon, a legend in the city. And
Yeah.
she stayed there her entire career.
I didn't get it until I went out there and I was like, oh, I totally understand now. Like this place is really cool. Great
Yeah.
food, great nightlife. Like you can go hiking, you can go on a ferry boat, like you can go to a sports game, like and it's different than New York because it's so not up tempo like that. It's very,
No, it's chill.
yeah, like you can literally walk the streets and be good there.
Very, very chill. And then it's so rustic. Like if you want to go hiking, if you want the mountains, it's
Yep.
got all that. It's really, it's Washington. It's perfect. Perfect, perfect area. And I didn't know Diana is part owner of the Mercury.
Yep.
Did you know that? I didn't know that
Yeah,
either.
that's
She
recent.
bought it.
I feel like over the last year and a half that happened. Um,
Mm,
yeah, so that's pretty
that's
recent.
great.
And Phoenix is another place. Like I remember when she got drafted there, I was like, man, like you think Arizona, you just think desert
Yeah,
and
no, for sure.
crazy heat, but like the Scottsdale, Phoenix area is awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
when it's not humid.
yeah, it's just on the East Coast, it's like the summers are hot, but they're
Ooh,
also very humid. Where
yes,
when you go
that's what I've
out
heard.
there, like it's hot, but you can breathe, so you can kind of
Right.
stand it a little bit. But you go into places there, and they have the mist things that create the steam from going everywhere, just because it's so hot. But yeah, I think that what's awesome is that we're starting to see a lot of female players, have the ability to go back and invest in the sport or invest in a team.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. So I think it says a lot about the league. I think it says a lot about the players that have played in the league that really believe in the longevity of it. So, all of that is really positive for the game.
No, and I compare it to the NFL. The NFL doesn't have black ownership, and that's something that needs to evolve huge. There's not any black owners in the NFL, where at least now you're seeing female ownership in the WNBA. I think that's such a huge positive step forward for everyone that hopefully it'll open more doors, and hopefully some black ownership groups will get a chance to own an NFL team.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, the other big news was your favorite team, the Indiana Fever. Um, they won their 14th game, which is the most since 2016. Kelsey Mitchell scored 29 the clinching free throws with a few seconds left, and CC threw in 19 points. And the Indiana Fever, this with disappointed a record Atlanta crowd that came out to see them, obviously because of CC, 84 to 79. Now the 14th win is big for them. It obviously still keeps them in the playoffs. They're still the seventh seed, I believe, but just they're really starting to come together. You see the second half, and even kind of before the All-Star game, you saw a resurgence in them coming together as a team and winning games and moving up. Before it was thought of that, they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league, and now I don't know who's going to want to face them in the playoffs. That, that,
Yeah.
that, that could be a tough matchup for anyone if they continue to build and get it rolling, because we're in September, so we're not far out, right?
No, I mean, I think they're down to single digits of games left. That Indiana Atlanta game it was a huge game because Atlanta is neck and neck with the
Yeah,
Chicago Sky for that last playoff spot.
yeah,
So I tuned into that. Actually, Barbara Turner, who was one of my teammates in college, is the
yeah,
assistant coach for the Atlanta Dream. So shout out to BT.
yeah. I love Barbara.
Yeah, so I tuned into that the other day. Or when was that? Was that last night? I think it was last night.
Yeah,
Um,
it was last night.
yeah, I can't. These days are all when you move, it's like what I
It's
have to.
it's it's Groundhog Day,
Yeah,
Maria.
it
It's
really is.
Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day.
I think what's going to be interesting about Indiana in the playoffs is, playoff runs sometimes are really about pace or being able to keep pace. And they push the ball. I mean, they play at a really, really fast pace. I mean, they got young legs on that team, which is a huge benefit. So yeah, I mean, so if they finish seventh right now, they would play either Minnesota or
Two.
Connecticut in the first round.
Well, that's another thing we'll talk about. I mean, Minnesota has moved up in the power rankings,
Yep.
but yeah, I still think it is. I still think it's going to be Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, Connecticut is at the two spot, Minnesota the three right now, and then you know,
Oh,
with
Connecticut's at the two. Oh, that's right. New York's at the one. Okay,
yeah, so
so it'd be two. It'd be 2-7.
yep. So right now they would play the Connecticut Sun. I mean, there's still a lot of time for Minnesota to bump up, but what's crazy is that like we could see a Las Vegas Aces exit in the first round. Seattle looks
Yeah,
phenomenal, and they just picked up Gabby Williams coming off.
I saw that. I
Yeah,
saw that. People
that's such a
talking about it.
great. It's such a great pickup, and a lot of people were
I
questioning like, well, what's going on with that? Well, all of the girls that played for France that were playing on the Olympic team opted out of that first portion of their WNBA contract so that they could stay in France and train together for the Olympics. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so like Gabby was on the Storm and then took herself off the roster so she can go train in France, and then obviously they just signed her back up again after the deadline. So Seattle's going to be really tough down the stretch. So that's a tough matchup. If I'm Las Vegas, I definitely would rather fall into the 3 seed if possible, than sitting in that 4 or 5, because I just think they're on a roll and they're just going to get better that they have her.
Yeah,
But
because I didn't know enough about Gabby,
Yeah.
So, everyone was talking about the signing. I didn't know enough about her as a player. Is she a veteran?
So she's like the same year as like Collier from Minnesota. She might be a year older than Fish. So you're talking maybe fourth year in the
Four,
league.
4 years. Yeah. Okay.
Trying
Okay.
to four, maybe five, if I'm doing my math right. Which, okay, so she's 26. Like she's still young.
Yeah, that is still young. I didn't know that they stayed. The France team, the WNBA, some of the WNBA players stayed to train with their team. That's
Yeah,
remarkable that they
yeah,
did
they
that.
opted out to really, and that was like the whole last year. So they really spent a full year, and I mean, you could
They
tell. And
they opted out, like they wouldn't keep him under contract just
well,
to
so
let him go.
yeah, like because if you don't during that
Oh,
portion,
you
you
need
can't
this
sign
roster
anybody
spot.
else.
Yeah,
So
I
you
got
gotta be
you.
able to have players. But you can always cut someone to bring somebody back and waive somebody or whatever. But yeah, I think Seattle's gonna be really good down the stretch, and I still think that Atlanta is gonna get some wins here and bump out Chicago. Chicago is
Yeah, yeah. Tina
you know,
Charles has been playing very well.
yeah, she played great the other day. If I just look at the schedule in general of, what the Chicago Sky have left versus the Atlanta Dream, I just feel like, you know, Chicago has Washington, I think, tomorrow, which is really their last layup before they get into a little bit of a tighter stretch. They got the Fever on Friday, so that'll
Right.
be a big one. And then if I'm remembering correctly, then they have Minnesota. They still have to play.
Yeah.
Um, and then they have the Aces. So again, it's gonna
Uh,
that
yeah.
last spot is really gonna come to the wire. So it should be really interesting.
Does the first whoever finishes first, do they get a bye?
No, they'll play the eighth seed.
They don't. Okay.
Yeah,
They do a true tournament style. Okay.
yeah, yep. But
Um.
last regular season games are September 19th. So you're talking
Oh yeah, couple
three
weeks.
and a
Yeah.
half weeks away, and you're in playoff form. So I love it. I love that it's kind of coming down to the wire. Team,
You know what? For me, not watching the WNBA and excuse me, just not thinking it was anything special. I have really grown to enjoy watching the players compete because I feel like they compete harder and with more passion and with more enthusiasm than the men do. Um, and they have a lot of talented players, which I never realized.
yep.
So I guess I was a little biased, but it is a good league, and I'm glad that they got the TV deal that they did, and it's hopeful. I really do now feel terrible that the salaries are as low as they are for some players. Um, they definitely should be at minimum six figures, and they should have a couple people making seven figures. I hope they're going to get to that point. But it was a learning experience, and you people judge it without watching it, and that's what's unfortunate. If you take the time to watch it and you see it in person or see it on TV, it changes your opinion. If you just watch a whole game, I think it'll bring you around to it. Because one of my other shows, my co-host said he watched 10.2 seconds of the WNBA and turned it off. He said he can't watch it. He just thinks it's bad basketball. And I said, you gotta watch an entire game. You gotta watch these girls. Just because they can't do the same things that the men can do, they do different things, and they do different things better than the men. and they play as a team. It's not just give the ball to one guy and get out of the way. I mean, they play a team game. They play with such passion, such enthusiasm, and it's not matched. And I don't think people give it a chance. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I
my take.
your co-host is on your other show, but or if he's
Yes, yeah.
a big basketball fan, but like women's basketball in specific is really played at its purest form, in my opinion, because
He
you know
wants me to have you on with him so he
I
can debate
would love
you
to do this point with him. Like if he,
because
depending on how old he is, right? Do you
he's
think
50. He's 55.
all right, so he's not that old, but like he was younger when like the Larry Bird era was around and
Yep.
Bill Lambert, like these guys weren't playing above the rim and crazy athletic. Actually, they were playing basketball back then the way women play basketball now, which is
Now,
mentally sound. There's not a lot of one-on-one ball. I mean, listen, there's definitely scenarios where that makes sense, right? Someone gets
yes,
hot, match or whatever, but women's basketball is played at its purest form, and anyone who really has watched the game evolve, I think women have become more athletic and more physical over the
they
years,
are absolutely.
but the style of play and the way they play it isn't different. It's just the speed and physicality of it that have changed. So, um, yeah, I would love to get on there and battle him on that
Yeah,
one
I
because
want you to because we always debate because he brings up obviously Caitlin Clark and how Caitlin Clark has brought a whole new fan base and she's made the difference. And I'm like, Diana Taurasi's the greatest women's player probably ever. And he's like, she's irrelevant now. She's irrelevant now. I said, well, if you said that around my friend Maria Conlon, I think she would disagree with you.
well,
And he said, have her on, bring her on. I'll talk about it. And I
that
said,
would be like saying, you know, Troy Aikman is irrelevant now because Patrick Mahomes is so good, right? Like it's just comments like that that I just don't understand from people. Like
oh, I was furious.
you have to, like, if there's no Diana Taurasi, there might not ever have been a Caitlin Clark.
No,
I mean,
you're
think about
100% right.
so Caitlin's what 22, maybe 23. Diana's 42. So they're 19 years apart. Who do you think Caitlin Clark was watching when she was younger, growing up?
Yeah, yeah. And
Watching
who was
like
building the league?
yeah, and like listen, there's always going to be evolution, and records are meant to be broken, yada yada yada. But like it's like saying Michael Jordan is irrelevant. Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Bill Russell is irrelevant. Kobe Bryant is irrelevant. Like why? Just because there's superstars that are popular currently. Um, and you can say that about anything, right? That'd be like saying like, all right, JFK was irrelevant. or
Right,
like
right,
what?
right.
Like, what do you mean? Like it's just which by the way, I watched this show this past week. It's called I don't know if you've seen it. It's called 11/22/63.
No, no. What's it on?
It's I'm watching it on Apple TV, but I believe it was also on Hulu.
Okay.
It's a TV series, just one season,
Yeah.
miniseries off of the book that Stephen King wrote. And
Oh,
it's actually kind of wild. James Franco plays the lead role, and a friend of mine is the one who recommended I watch it because she kind of knows that I'm into some of that like historical stuff. But he basically
I
uh,
am too.
uh,
Yeah.
he time travels back to try to stop the assassination of JFK and follows Lee Harvey Oswald all around and it's interesting because they go through all right, well, if you change the past and the future change it, basically like a more
Yeah.
current Back to the Future, but
The butterfly effect. Yeah.
exactly. So but I like it because I'm always very intrigued by JFK and just everything that happened there. And
I was too. I was
yeah,
too. I read as much as I could about it. I read a couple different reports about it. Um, and who knows
yeah,
if it was one shooter, it was multiple shooters. But it just it doesn't pass the smell test. And I wish that we had the technology now that that we didn't back then, and maybe there would have been cameras set up. But even the Trump shooting, like they're investigating that, and the time that it took for the Secret Service to react, and they showed that the local police were alerting them to this guy who got there like an hour and a half early. He flew a drone over the whole thing to see everything, and then they're telling the Secret Service that there's an opening here, there's danger here, you need to step in, and it was so delayed, and I was just fascinated by that they just blew off the local police, and they did their own thing, and it's just
Uh, I sent you that video, right, of that comedian who went on
yeah.
that. It's just like, absolutely hilarious. Like we're supposed to be the greatest country in the world with all this technology.
Oh my god, I know.
Some 20s, early 20s, some kid just woke up someday and just decided,
Yeah,
hey, I'm just gonna go try to kill the president, like, or the
yeah,
former president. But yeah, I mean, it's
with a
just,
rifle, yeah.
yeah, it's just I
Some nut. And then um, we got into a political discussion on the sports show, and it angered the people of Worcester so much that it drew the highest listenership in the station's history. So I
isn't that,
was I was asked to do a political show,
yeah,
and we did our first political show last week, and I had Jeff Larson on as a guest to try to be kind of like the voice of reason, because his uncle's the congressman, and it was just madness. It was just madness.
I really think, like, I'm not on social media a ton, but in construction here and moving TVs, like I feel like I've been on my phone a little bit more recently. And I really think that, like, if I posted on Facebook that I found a cure for cancer, I might get like 30 comments. Hey, nice
Yeah,
job, congrats, this is awesome. If I posted a pro-Trump posting on Facebook, I would probably wake up 20 minutes later and have 1,000 comments. It,
at least,
it's
at
so
least.
thing how that's why I don't even dabble. Like sometimes I'll read through people going back and forth, and I'm like, this is
It's
just like,
just I do for entertainment value.
you know what?
It's just hilarious.
We've talked about this on another show. I think you and Erica and I talked about it, but like I don't know what it is about this guy because you know we've had presidents for however many years now. I've never seen people be so crazy about
It's
political topics as I have for the last 8 years. And then it doesn't even matter going forward, no matter what happens, it'll be the next 4 years. Like, and I just still don't get it. Like, what?
it's
There's nothing,
polarizing. Yeah.
it's like you go out, you vote. Yeah, every vote counts. Okay, does it? Like, come on.
Well, Frank, the guy, he said on the show that on Super Tuesday he wants the military to police the cemeteries to make sure the dead don't rise from the graves and vote.
Yeah,
So he got some nice comments there. He owns a small business and was complaining about inflation, and like he makes pizzas, and the price of cheese and sauce and everything went up. And someone asked him, "Oh, did the price of air go up too? Is the price of oxygen up? Because you usually think everything's going up." Um,
and it's
the other
nuts.
the other guy, Dave Schuman, was on, and he got ridiculed because he kept calling
Oh boy.
Kamala, who was a wrestler in the WWF in the 1980s, was the Ugandan giant, and he couldn't get her name right. kind of harassed for that. So this political show, which I had no desire to do, um, drew the highest ratings in the station history and the most feedback. And the guy who owns the station, I mean, the station is very, very liberal. Some of the shows are Unity in the Community, Black in Business, Cannabis 101, which talks about weed. And then, he wanted the sports shows. So we do Moneyline, which is just a sports talk show. And then I do WooCast, which is about the Worcester Red Sox. And now he put this show, we call the name of it Rebel Republic. And he put that on as a morning show because he wanted it on in the morning. And it just, yeah. So that did monster numbers, and he's happy with that because at least I know he's a Democrat, but at least he likes giving the contrarian view and letting the other side talk. Um, I admire him for doing that and not get like I thought I was going to get fired
Yeah.
after that show, but he's like, no, people listen, we'll put it on. It's the Howard Stern effect. If they hate you, they'll listen more. So,
Yeah, and it's what's crazy is like, I think there's so much stuff out there right now, and it's almost like a lot of these politicians hide their agendas in minutia because like I look at some of the stuff and I've told you
oh, they
before,
all do.
I'm very moderate, so I'm in the middle, but like I saw the other day, I was reading through something, like really digging it in to see what affects me in my financial world. And like Kamala Harris wants to increase
Oh, the taxes,
the unrealized gains to 25%,
25%.
which
Yeah,
is insane. And even worse, right, is the dividend rate and the capital gains rate. So
yeah,
capital gains, she wants to double. And for those people out there that are listening and not really understanding what that means is like you if you have investments that aren't tax deferred dollars, etc., you're now paying 40% tax on any gains. So if you make $10,000 in your account in that given year,
yeah,
you're losing 4,000 of it to taxes. Now that's
yep.
before fees and what you got to pay your manager and all this other stuff. Like, how
They
do you?
said that that's going to be 50%. Basically, it's going to end up being like half.
It is. So it's like, what are
Yeah,
you going to do now? Now imagine a year where a back-to-back year you're minus in the market. So then now what's going to happen when you're talking about unrealized gains and losses and everything? How are we going to wash those against each? It's creating, in my opinion, like it, the amount of debt that we will be
yeah.
dealing with in this country is like it's not even the tip of the iceberg. So like, everybody wants to vote morally and I don't disagree with that. I mean, I wish we had a perfect candidate, but at the end of the day, you got to know that some of this stuff's going back into your pocket. And I just don't, I just haven't read or seen anything that makes me feel good either way right now. It's just nutty.
And that's kind of, yeah, and that's kind of what Frank said. Frank, he didn't like the DNC because he just felt that they just everyone bashed Trump and nobody really talked about the issues.
Well, it's great
And
to see that they bumped Biden. So they bumped him to like
they
1205 or something like that.
they had
Just
to
hoping that enough Americans would already be asleep before he got on.
before they put him on. I know.
Like, I mean, granted, he's not running for president, right? But I mean, it's still this is what
Yeah, but he still technically is the president. I mean,
I don't know if he's going down for a nap and then they wake him up like, hey,
hey,
buddy,
you're up, buddy.
yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it's weird, it's interesting, but uh,
The other thing I did want to ask you about was the MVP race as it's entering into the stretch run. Las Vegas Aces, Asia Wilson. She's, obviously with the record with the double doubles, but you are correct. It's because she gets most of them off her own rebounds.
No,
And
that's Angel Reese.
I'm sorry, Angel Reese. Angel
Yeah,
Reese.
Angel Wilson.
Asia Wilson's good. Asia
Yeah,
Wilson's good. Yes. Rookie of the year, I was talking about. Sorry.
uh,
Rookie
yeah.
of the year is Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. But the MVP is clearly Asia Wilson, right?
Well, I actually think I think Rookie of the Year is in the bag for Caitlin. I think she
Yeah.
deserves it. I think that listen, if the Indiana Fever were like 3-24 right now, maybe I'd be saying something different, but they're not. They're right up there around 500. So, I think that she's done enough to take that home, and I don't think that's not a hit on Angel. I just don't think that she's had to do as much, to get her team where they are.
Right.
And think the MVP race is actually a more interesting race at this point than the Rookie of the Year one. And here's why: is that
The
yes,
Minnesota girl, right?
well, Nafisha Collier's having an MVP season. Stewie's having a great year.
No.
Jewel Lloyd is having a great year for Seattle. So you got, Connecticut Sun, you got Alyssa Thomas and Dewana Bonner are both having great years. The problem I think people will have, and I don't think it should matter. I think if you're the best player in the league, you should be MVP. But I'm also to the old school thought of, all right, if you're the MVP, why are you not in first or second place, right? And the
I
Ace,
agree with that. Yeah.
what, fifth place right now? Now,
Yeah,
granted,
they've dropped. Yeah.
they've dealt with some injuries, etc. Um, so I think that one is going to have people a little bit more puzzled, just because I think that if you take the overall, like, what is the overall representation of MVP is kind of a mix of all of that, right? Statistically strong, um, exemplifies everything that you want in the W, wins basketball games. Now, I do think if you take Asia Wilson off the Las Vegas Aces, they're probably like ninth or 10th right now instead of being fifth.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but you could say the same thing for anybody else that's in that conversation. So I hope she gets it. I think she's had an unbelievably remarkable year, but you just never know.
No, you don't. You don't. And then the last one I wanted to ask you about was Coach of the Year.
Hmm.
The front runner ESPN has is Cheryl Reeve from Minnesota. I think that Sandy from New York would be the Coach of the Year, but also Stephanie White is there too. So
Yeah,
are
I mean,
those names you would go with, the
if
top names?
ballot in my hand, the last person in the league that I would submit it for would be Cheryl Reeves. No one benches my girl in the gold medal.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Get out of here with that. Yeah, I think it's again, I think it's going to come down to, like, you could give it to Sandy because they've had the best record all year. They've also been the healthiest, knock on wood, all year. Um, Stephanie White again. She stepped in last year, was her first year. They had a great year. This year they've had a great year. Um, I do think, and I said this early on when you and I were doing this, that I thought Minnesota was a sleeper. Not because I think Cheryl Reeves is a phenomenal coach, although she's a decent coach, but they just have a lot of talent on that team, and they're young, and they play really well together. They play their roles really well. So if I had to cast a vote today, I probably would go with Sandy. That would probably be my. I
Yeah.
think she's done a really good job there, and she's been consistent. And
And she's Australian.
yeah, I mean,
I like
she,
the
uh,
Australian.
yeah, and I like her. I mean, I think she's likable. I think her players genuinely like playing for her. At least most of them, anyways. So I would go that route. But then you could also, I mean, as much as you hate to say it, you look at someone like a Christy Sides for Indiana, and like they went from
I
having
absolutely
2, 3 wins or whatever the heck it was last year to like
making
14.
the playoffs. Yeah.
So, it really all depends on the committee and what you're looking to reward as the
Yeah.
representation that comes.
It's all subjective. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only people that should not be in the conversation at all, in my opinion, are the Mystics coach, the Dallas Wings coach. And, if there's any Dallas Wings fans listening to this, I'm sure there's not. He's awful. He's just
Yeah.
awful. Um, she should not be in the conversation. I don't think. Who else? The Sparks coach, which is crazy because he did such a phenomenal
Yeah.
Connecticut. He had some major injuries early on. He's got a young team, so we'll see. But I really think outside of that, it could go to anybody. I mean, even
Yeah.
Teaspoon, first year coaching, she's done a great job with this guy with a young group. Um, so that one I think is way closer, in my opinion, along with the MVP vote than Rookie of the Year. I mean, there's no way they're not giving it to Caitlin Clark. There might be riots in the streets.
There would be. There would be.
People probably want her to get MVP and Rookie of the Year in the same year. They're going to be
They
all.
do. They do. They do.
It's nuts.
When do they announce those awards? Are they during the playoffs usually, or are they after the season? Just out of
So
curiosity.
I feel like in the playoffs is when they start. They typically start with like
Okay.
Defensive Player of the Year, which by the way, like Asia Wilson could win Defensive Player of the Year and MVP in the same
She
year.
is in the conversation for that as well. Yes.
I mean, I don't know anyone out there that's doing on both sides of the ball, but which would be remarkable. I don't think that's ever happened in the WNBA. If it has, it was her, but I don't think so. So they normally announce that one first. I think they typically follow it up with what is it, like six Woman of the Year or whatever. Like they do some of those first. Um,
Right. Right. Before they get to the major ones.
Yeah, like last year, I think they decided on MVP like during the finals, which was hilarious because Asia and Stewie were playing against each other and were basically the two finalists for it. So it gave it a little bit more meat to it, which was nice. But yeah, I mean, we'll know end of September, beginning of October.
Okay. I wanted to cover your presentation because I read through it and I thought it was remarkable, and I thought that it would definitely help people to hear it, and especially someone like myself. I don't know exactly what the presentation was for. You can go into that, but it was incredible. Um, who was it for, and what did you do it for?
Yeah, so I about a year and a half ago I started an enterprise called Work Harder. I think I've told you a little bit about it before, but I spell it Hearter.
Yes.
You think work harder, you think Harder. And, I'm really passionate about that because I feel like too many people make decisions for the wrong reasons about what they want to do or who they want to spend their time with instead
Very
of
true.
it with what lights up your soul and makes you happy. And I'm just a big believer in that if you're doing something that you really love, if you're spending time with people who bring out the best in you, you're just going to have a way happier life. So I've done a ton of speaking engagements before, but today in specific, I spoke to 400 seventh and eighth graders. Which, by the way, man, seventh and eighth grade boys are. I'm gonna have my work cut out for me. They are a little rowdy. So I had to speak to them today, and I basically took 11 slides, and I had each letter of, the phrase "work harder" correlated to a separate word. So, for example, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the W stood for willingness, and
Yeah,
I think that one's really overlooked because like I get the question all the time
that's huge.
of how'd you get to where you were? How'd you get to where you are now? Or how do you do this? Or how do you juggle your time, etc. And it really all starts with the want, right? So if
Does.
if you're willing to take risks and you're willing to move outside of your comfort zone and do some things that maybe aren't within your wheelhouse to achieve your goals, that's step one, right? Is saying, okay, I'm okay being uncomfortable. And, I think if we could teach more kids that early on, it would help them really look at their lives moving forward, and then, one of the H's and work harder, or there's only one H, sorry, humility, talking about like, listen, like, it's okay to be a copycat. You're copying the right cat, right? Like, know your limitations. You don't have to be great at everything, but if you're self-aware and
Right.
humble about it, you're going to build trust. You're going to be able to, prevent misunderstandings between relationships or scenarios. And it's like, I've been, and I talked a little bit about this with them today. Like, we've all been in ruts in our lives, right? Like, those
Yeah.
nights where, like, you can't fall asleep because you just can't turn your freaking brain off, you know? And a lot of that angst that I've learned over the years, a lot of that comes from a couple of different places. One, insecurity, right? Whether it's insecurity in your career or a relationship or a friendship or whatever. I think two is worry, right? Like, as human beings, we constantly worry about, like, what are we going to do next? Is this good enough? Which again
Everything. Yeah.
goes to that self satisfaction, or with these kids nowadays, it's really the satisfaction of others. Um, so it's really like I got to a certain point, like, I sleep great. I go to bed easy, and besides my natural insomnia of, like, I'm watching a show and I can't turn it off because I'm hooked, but um, I don't wake up anymore like with angst. I don't
Freaking
have
out. Yeah.
I have Sunday scaries. Like, I feel
Yeah.
bad for my friends that talk about Sunday scaries. Like,
Yeah.
they spend all of Sunday like
They
depressed about
ruined Sunday. Yeah.
in me. I'm like, all right, yeah, I mean, it stinks that I have to go to work, kind of, because I can't just chill with my homies and my family, but I don't hate what I do. I love what I do. So it's not the end of the world for me. I don't have Sunday scaries. I've had that before in my life, and it's awful. So, and I think kids go through that with school too, right? Like, oh, it's Sunday. I got to go to school tomorrow. And, like, we've all been there. But, I spoke to them about really just changing their approach to that. It's like, okay, you have school tomorrow. You have 7, 8 classes. You can't hate all 7, 8 classes, right? Like, it's just not possible. Which ones do you like? And you ask kids and they say, well, gym. Okay, yeah, I get it. I love gym too, right? Like, who doesn't like gym? Which, by the way, there are people who don't like gym. But,
Yeah.
well, I like science. Okay, why do you like science? Well, I'm interested in, wildlife, or this or that. Okay, cool. So let's highlight that on Sunday night instead of worrying about your algebra test or your
The
whatever,
good
like,
things. Right.
right? Because you got to do stuff that you're not comfortable with in order to be able to do the stuff that you really want to do.
Want
So,
to do. Yeah.
that's kind of like, I mean, I could talk for hours about my presentation and topic as a whole, but it's really just committing, and it's not just for kids. I've
No.
mentored adults that, like, just are in a rut and, like, just can't figure it out. And we have many conversations of, like, what's your why, and what lights you up? And it could be something so dumb, like, I love organizing stuff. Okay, what do you do for a living? I'm a teacher. Okay, well, you're not really, you can organize your class plan, you can organize your account, but it's not giving them that release of their passions. It's just a matter of finding it and just aligning yourself with more of that and less of the stuff that really makes you unhappy.
Yeah, the willingness was stood out to me as huge because, you said the willingness to open the door to new experiences, growth, and learning.
Mhm.
So few people are willing to do that. That they don't want to come out of their comfort zone, and that's unfortunate, and that prevents growth. So I 100% agreed with that. The other thing, the power of overcoming. Um, Overcoming obstacles and overcoming adversity, that's what builds character, and
Yep.
that's what makes you a stronger person. So I wholeheartedly agree with you there. You can't let, like you said, one obstacle or one adversity, one situation define you.
Yeah.
um, I like that you put something in about respect because, especially for kids today, that's the one thing that I see the least in. Kids are less respectful. They don't talk. They'll talk back. They don't look you in the eye.
Yep.
They struggle sometimes with communication. Being disrespectful to an adult, I think is horrible.
Well,
Uh,
what's funny about you saying that, and I use this a lot with my players on my team. Like, I'll say to them, you guys are being selfish and disrespectful. Now, none of my kids are actually disrespectful in the way that most people think that means.
Right.
But and what I tried to get across to these kids today is like when you're not giving your all to something, you're disrespecting yourself and you're disrespecting whatever that is, right? And if you're not going to work hard for your teammate, you're being selfish. I'm not talking about you passing the ball. I'm talking about your effort, your focus, and your attitude. So, there's more to it than that. And I talked a lot today about being kind because,
That was going to be next. That's
we
so
got a
true.
lot of like, bullies out there. And I even said today, I said,
The
bullying
worst thing.
is not just physical, right? It's
No.
it's mental, it's all of that. And I said, if you're smart, you'll and you take one thing away from today, you will remember this. If you're the kid that picked on a kid or made someone feel inferior in some way over and over again when you were younger, you better hope to God that that parent is not the hiring manager for your dream job one day because
Yeah,
people don't forget the way you treat people. It's just
they
it
don't.
stays with you. Kids don't get that. It's like
No,
and
they
it's
don't.
because you put something out there on social media, it's out there forever, right? So it's a hot
The
topic.
in,
It's
the
really tough.
internet is forever. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. But I thought that was really powerful. The quality of being friendly, genuine, and considerate. Because it's a ripple effect, like you said. It improves mental health and well-being, both for the giver and the receiver, and that's so true because especially with bullying now, with the technology, with phones, with social media, you can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. And it was one thing to go to school, get bullied. You could come home and be away. Now you come home, it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram.
Yep.
And that's why we see so many kids struggling with mental health problems. And that was one thing that I believed, that resonated the most. The willingness to get out of your comfort zone, and that was very important to me. And what was the other one I liked? The resilience, the strength of resilience.
Yep.
That is so important because you say the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. And we've all been in those situations. I can remember being in games where I've gotten beaten and I got Thunder Dan hit and given up a sack, or I missed a block. And you have to have a short memory. You have to put it behind you and you have to go to the next play. So
I
that
call that goldfish memory with my players. I said, you gotta have a goldfish memory. I said,
exactly,
but you can't
exactly,
overfeed a goldfish because it doesn't even remember that it just ate. I said, that's how you gotta be with
exactly.
obstacles and stuff that doesn't go your way. Like just move on. Easier said than done, by the way, right? Like we know that. But you gotta learn that. And if people aren't telling these kids this, like where are they getting it?
No, but yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. But um, overcoming adversity and then being able to get up, dust yourself off, and bring it on. Having that attitude, I think, is so important. And then the last piece that really stood out to me, the importance of empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. I don't feel that's done enough, not even just with kids, with adults.
Yep.
Empathy strengthens connections, fosters understanding, and reduces conflict. If people were just a little more empathetic to others, the world would be a better place.
You know,
And empathy is a huge quality to have. And
I,
you have to be able to look at another person and try to think about what they're feeling and going through,
yep.
and empathize with that, and be supportive of them. And you will see a reaction. You will see that you're providing support and help. So I thought that was a great point, and just overall a very very impressive presentation. I thought you did a spectacular job. I didn't know it was for eighth graders, but
Yeah, seventh and eighth. I was like, whoa. I thought it was gonna be like 150, 400. I was like, oh my gosh. But
wow, you're Maria Conlon. You can
yeah,
speak in
well, it was
you.
their whole school, which was fine. It was great. I love to do it, but I was definitely a little shocked when I got there.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I'm sure you
Yeah.
were, but
So
you did an amazing job. You did an
thank
amazing job, and I'll keep this because I there's principles on here that I need to work on, and there's principles on here I believe in. So I just wanted to point that out before we go, that it was, you always give back, and that's so important. Like I talked about 2 weeks ago, you and Meg both running basketball camps, and taking time out. You took time out to jump on the podcast and talk for a little while. You always give back to your community, and your community loves you. And I'm so excited for everything that you're doing. And you work 47 jobs. Nobody
you.
has
I,
more ambition than you and work ethic, and you can't teach that. You either have it or you don't. You have ambition, you have work ethic, you have desire, and you're passionate about everything you do. And I've never heard the word scary Sundays, but I've definitely had those too.
yeah.
And I will try to avoid the scary Sundays. We don't want that.
Maybe we'll change our podcast to Monday morning. This way, you're always talking first thing of the week, man. I'll remind you.
Yes, you'll make me happy every Monday.
Yeah, there you go. So before we leave, I have a funny one for you.
Oh
Um,
boy.
yeah. So I I was stuck in traffic yesterday, and so naturally, I was just kind of I like to scroll through memes because like the internet is just so undefeated. It's awesome. But my favorite that I saw probably all summer was since 1996. Okay, 1996, Dallas Cowboys, 0 Super Bowl appearances.
Yep.
Since
Zero.
1996, Taylor Swift, 1 Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah. That's so true.
That's
That's
great.
so true.
I
That's
love it.
so true.
We're Swifties here, so I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I know you are a Swifty. I know you are a Swifty, and it's sad because the girl I may or may not be seeing. I know the tour is coming to an end in the next couple months, but she is returning stateside.
Yep.
Um, have
Any
you been to
Taylor
her
Swift?
con? I was just gonna ask if you've been to her concerts before. Have you
I,
gone?
I haven't.
Okay.
I mean, I'm always hit or miss with concerts. Like, I hate like
It's yeah, it's a
yeah,
lot.
I'd rather go to like a stadium and stuff. But by the way, like I love Taylor Swift, but I'm not paying $1,000 for a ticket, man. It's just
No, I looked on StubHub at
yeah,
the tickets,
it's
and
wild, totally wild.
and $1,500.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch. I mean, I've when I'm with Kelly, I've watched several of her shows,
Hmm.
and I went to the movies with Kelly to watch the movie. Was it the Eras tour?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And God bless her. I don't know how she does it. I mean, she legitimately loves her fans. She puts on an absolute spectacular performance. Um, I've grown to like her music.
Yeah.
I've grown to like her music.
Great.
I think she is truly, truly special. And I wore a bedazzled Taylor Swift shirt to the movie theater just to try to be a fan and say I
Yeah,
love Taylor.
that counts.
So I'm a semi Swifty myself. So
I love
and
it.
I love that, and I love that she supports Travis. I think, they're such a good couple, and they support each other and they appreciate each other, and it's not fake. And you can see it's not fake. So
Yeah.
it's good that, I Kelly has told me about the different relationships that she's been in, and it's good that she has someone now. And I really believe this one will last. So
Yeah.
I wish her the best. But another another gem of an episode of conversations with Cully and Conlon on Husky Talk. I'm going to be talking with Mike Burton, and I'm going to be talking with Phil Hunt, and we're going to see what's going to happen next. Would
Cool.
you go to the Merrimack game if
Yeah. When is it?
it's a week from Saturday? Because they want me they want to plan like an event for the Merrimack game and do a live Husky Talk at the tailgate,
If
and then
it's
they
since I can't. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I could probably go in the morning. I have a wedding in New York on the 7th.
okay, yeah, it's not that, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
um and then obviously something in the C Club, but
Yeah.
they say that I'm the glue for this, and I'm like, I don't think I could plan anything. I'm like,
Man,
how do you do that? I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
you
Am I
have
just supposed to go on Facebook and just ask people? I mean, like, how would you go about planning or inviting people to a tailgate or an
honestly
alumni event?
all the people you've had on and all the people that follow it. I mean, those are the people that you want there. I think it would be so easy to have a bunch of us send it out, and then it's a trickle effect.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
So post it on Facebook. Hey, we're gonna do a live Husky Talk and tailgate
Yeah,
for the first home
create
game.
an event and then invite people. You'll be good.
Okay. All right.
Yep,
I will try that. I will try that. Thank you for the advice.
you got it.
For my beautiful, lovely co-host Maria Conlon, Steve Cully, best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them back at life.